Destiny 2 has a major problem. Over the past couple weeks, I begged and pleaded pretty much on my goddamn knees for my mates to get on Destiny 2. After a 4-year break, I'd finally come back to it and goddamn I was hooked again. But trying to get my mates to download it was harder than drawing blood from a stone. Not only this, Destiny do not do much at all in the way of keeping new players hooked, okay? They do a great job. If you already know the map, if you already know navigation, combat, all this stuff, Destiny does an amazing job of offering new content to keep you playing and past players hooks. But new players, it is one of the most confusing games in the world. So confusing to the point that I was getting stressed. I think I lost 20 years off of my lifespan trying to explain this goddamn game to two people. For a little bit of context, Mr. Ruffle Waffles has just come over to Destiny 2 due to his puzzle solving that Destiny naturally has installed in the game when completing the harder missions and raids and dungeons. So I thought, under the guise that if Ruffle likes it and he likes zombies Easter eggs, then these two will as well. But the issue began right away. After putting you into, just throwing you into a tutorial mission, which in my opinion is perfect. It teaches you the basic controls and everything like that. But as soon as that mission is completed, there is nothing in terms of steady progress in Destiny 2. Everything that you need to do sort of chucks you about here and there, and there's no foundation for new players to focus on. Now, 4 years ago, Guardian ranks were not a thing in Destiny 2 at all. So I'm just getting used to them as well. And I thought, look, it's the best place to start as a new player, because by the time you've flown through the first 3 or 4 levels, you'll have pretty good knowledge of navigating Destiny 2's overwhelming menu. During this entire time, I was planning on playing missions with them to get their light level up to a basic 1965, because that's what you need to do dungeons. So I thought it was a good foundation for them to aim for. How to get there, even with the knowledge that I'm giving them, was goddamn stressful. There were times that I was in orbit for over 40 minutes waiting for these guys to complete quests because they either can't be done with a friend or they accidentally got launched into the seasonal quest, for example, and wanted to finish it. Now, I don't mind them doing things and wanting to finish it, but explaining the menus, the inventory, characters, subclasses, everything like that, artifacts, fragments, with people who do not know how to navigate the menus is extremely frustrating. The main reason being, there's 2 main navigation menus. One for the destinations, the maps, the quests, the seasonal stuff, and one for your character. The fact that they haven't just put a character subsection in with the quests and locations and then done tabs within that like they do the social one, it just doesn't make sense to me, because it's such an easy thing to integrate whilst making it a lot more accessible for newer players, because they don't have to, open up the wrong one and be like, god damn, where is it, I'm struggling. They spent more time in the opening 4 hours of playing Destiny 2 trying to navigate menus than they did actually playing the game. And in my opinion, this is one of the worst things that a game can do when trying to encourage new players to play, is just overwhelming them with menus and things to do outside of actually playing the game, actually doing missions, completing quests, bounties, and these sort of things. Because why would you want to play a game that you're not actually playing? Now, I'm not sure if Destiny 2 do this purposefully because of the life cycle of the game and where we're currently at within it. The starting quests that you would have got when Destiny 2 first released, the starting campaign mission, are no longer in the game. So there is no common objective or continuity within the game for free-to-play new players. Because you have to bear in mind, most new players to Destiny 2 are going to be free-to-play, and there's nothing obvious about what they need to do, where they need to go, and nothing continuous about their experience other than the Guardian ranks. And it's just extremely confusing, because on top of most of the cutscenes not understanding what's happening with the lore and the story, you don't get to learn or build an attachment to any of the newer campaigns, because it offers you the first mission, the first quest within a story, and then says, well, this is locked. I just don't think Destiny 2 caters to new players at all. I think they've completely forgotten about them. And to me, it looks like they assume they're not going to be getting any, which can be extremely dangerous, as there's been no real news around Destiny 3 and its release date. And we know Destiny 2 is dropping another DLC in June, so we know it's going to be around for another year. Outside of the first 2 days of trying to understand the game, which was a real struggle to keep them playing, it wasn't that bad. They knew their way around the menus and things weren't as confusing, so there was a lot more playing involved. But to even have to play a game for 2 days, around 8 hours game time, before you even understand the menus is a little bit worrying. variant. But moving on, they finally had hit 1965 power, and I took them into the Prophecy raid. If you are playing with some of your friends who have never played Destiny before and trying to get them to a point where you can run endgame with them, I don't recommend doing this, because it took over 3.5 hours with some major hand holding to finally complete this dungeon. Now, the reason why I bring this point up in the dungeon is because after we had cleared the dungeon, there wasn't a sense of relief. The first things they said is, well, what was the point of this? Why didn't I get any better gear? In my opinion, they're right. For content this hard, there needs to be an equal reward that you get out of it. And first time completions of dungeons don't give you that. You know, they've already reached the soft cap. They need powerful gear to improve their power, and they're not dropping it. I think it's a very simple change to make on first time clears of dungeons, raids, missions, strikes, whatever it is. At least drop powerful gear. It doesn't have to be pinnacle gear, but to not drop any gear better than the one you've got already doesn't exactly encourage new players to continuously challenge themselves and put themselves through 3.5 hours of stress if there's no progression being seen. Now, I understand you're going to say, well, the featured dungeons and raids of the week do that, but you have to remember these guys are playing free to play. They don't have access to the featured dungeons. So in my opinion, it only makes sense to give free to play players a little bit more to get that powerful and pinnacle gear outside of the Vanguard, Gambit and Crucible playlists. Because it was something I noticed very quickly, that once you've hit the soft cap in Destiny 2, there is a very finite amount of things to do when you haven't got any DLCs to raise that power level. This includes, as I just stated, the playlist, but it also includes bounties, and just doing playlists and bounties to get powerful gear is extremely repetitive, and it just turns into a repetitive snooze fest when you haven't got any DLCs. Now, luckily for them, I had done a good enough job to persuade them into getting some of the DLCs for fairly cheap. Final Shape, Witch Queen and Lightfall, because I think they're the only ones you really need to enjoy the game, and I managed personally to keep them hooked on Destiny 2. But outside of my input, I don't think they would have carried on playing Destiny 2, and this is the problem that Bungie have. If they aren't able to keep new players interested and engaged because they are overwhelmingly confusing, it's difficult to navigate. You know, unless you've got someone currently playing the game, there's not really much help out there unless you want to find a YouTube video. You shouldn't need to look up a YouTube video to understand a game when you're playing it for the first time. That doesn't make sense. Destiny need to do a better job in explaining the game for new players so they don't need to look for that external help. That does not mean Destiny 2 isn't, as far as mid to end game goes, one of the best RPGs out there. For current and past players, there is nothing that they do poorly to keep them engaged and coming back and playing the game and continuously keeping them hooked on the game. They added prismatic classes. There's now 5 subclasses from you to play on. One of them merges them all, but they are horrible at making the new game for players accessible and easy to understand. It's at the point of the life cycle of Destiny 2 where it's been out for almost a decade. Destiny as a franchise has been out for over a decade. It's been out for 12 years. So maybe it's got to the point where they've given up catering for new players, and that's okay. I haven't experienced a more stressful goddamn time on an RPG other than trying to explain this to new people. You never really get that outsider's perspective on how difficult it truly can be picking up a game for the first time. And in my opinion, if you want a healthy player base, if you want the player base to grow, you know, you need to do something about that. Anyway, I appreciate you for watching. You have been beautiful. I have been Branno. Don't forget to goddamn comment. Don't forget to comment, because if you don't, I'm going to be waiting under your bed with some mosquito saliva to prick you in the bum so you have an itchy ass for the rest of the week. Subscribe and obviously like the video if you liked it. If you didn't, I don't care. And again, I appreciate you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one in a bit.